After coming back from a week-long international trip, I was surprised when my mother-in-law, Megan, called me sounding very pleased. She mentioned something about us saving $120,000. Confused, I tried to think of when I might have saved such a large amount. As a freelance jewelry designer, I do have a savings account for emergencies, but I don't keep big sums of money on hand, and my bank card was with me the whole time. No one else should have access to withdraw that much from my account. Megan then told me she had taken the money from a drawer, saying, "You guys are doing well, so it's fine." This left me confused, and before I could ask more questions, she quickly thanked me and hinted at needing financial help in the future before hanging up. I was puzzled about the missing $120,000 until my husband, Jerry, came home and explained that it was all a misunderstanding. A month later, Megan started calling me repeatedly. I ignored the calls at first, but after seeing over 90 missed calls on my phone, I felt I had to answer. When I did, Megan's voice was angry, accusing me of ignoring her. She seemed to feel wronged, but I saw it as a result of her assumptions. I am Lily, a 40-year-old freelance jewelry designer, busy with work and hoping to have children someday. My husband, Jerry, used to have a corporate job, but now he helps me run my growing design business. Early in our marriage, my design work was slow, and we mostly relied on Jerry's steady income. Now that my business is doing well, our roles and responsibilities have changed, but so have our challenges, like dealing with unexpected family misunderstandings about money. As I approached the age of 37, my career as a jewelry designer was really taking off, and I needed to get better organized because my schedule was getting busier. Seeing the growing demands of my business, my husband Jerry, who had a good job and was set for a promotion, made a big decision. He quit his job to work with me. He used his management skills to help us run our business together. We were able to secure contracts with well-known international brands, which improved both our work and our personal lives. However, with success came new challenges, especially with Jerry's mother, Megan. She lived alone in the family home and saw our lives as very luxurious. She often asked us for money, saying things like, "You always seem to be living so lavishly, I'm jealous." Part of my job involved attending product launches and dinners with executives, but Megan thought these were just for fun. Her requests for money became more frequent and personal. For example, she once asked for money to throw a party for a friend. While it might seem like we could easily afford to help her, maintaining our business image was expensive and came with many obligations. We weren't living in luxury, these were necessary parts of our work. Megan, however, was envious and sarcastic, not understanding the true nature of our expenses. She would say things like, "Dressed up beautifully, eating at expensive places, I envy you." Despite my repeated refusals, Jerry, being her son, would sometimes give in to her requests, thinking it was easier to keep her happy than to deal with the disruption it might cause. "If giving her a little money keeps her quiet, then it's worth it," he would say. But Megan's demands only grew. Recently, she asked for a new dress for an upcoming gathering. When Jerry suggested a more affordable option, she insisted it had to be something fancy, and even wanted a matching bag, which left us feeling frustrated. To try and manage her frequent requests, Jerry had set up a credit card in Megan's name and asked her to use it for her expenses. At first, she overspent and was warned by Jerry. He asked her to let us know before making big purchases, but she continued to spend extravagantly. This pattern of constant financial demands has left both Jerry and me feeling stressed as we try to balance supporting family with keeping our business strong and sustainable. I found a beautiful ring and couldn't resist buying it, though I regret not telling you first. Unfortunately, the bill was really high. If spending continues like this, maybe it's best to return the card. We simply can't afford these costs. The credit card was in Megan's name, but Jerry was the one managing and paying the bills. Megan seemed to misunderstand the purpose of the credit card, treating it as if there was no limit. She didn't realize that every purchase would eventually need to be paid for, and since the money wasn't coming directly from her, she kept using it freely. Seeing the need to control her spending, Jerry decided to set a limit on her card. This led to Megan coming into our home one day, upset and complaining, "What the heck? I couldn't pay for my shopping the other day." "Why?" We explained that her excessive spending was straining our finances, which meant we had to lower her monthly limit. "It's still enough, right?" Jerry asked, trying to keep things peaceful. But Megan protested, saying, "You two are still dressing up and going to fancy places. How is what I'm doing any different?" We tried to explain that these activities were part of our jobs, not just for fun, but Megan didn't see the difference. "If that's a job, then what I'm doing isn't any different. It's unfair that only you two get to have all the fun," she argued. While it's true that our work involves attending events in luxurious venues, these are professional obligations, not leisure. Despite her misunderstandings, setting a spending limit on Megan's credit card seemed to calm things down a bit. Occasionally, Megan would visit and complain to Jerry, but overall, life went on without major disruptions. As the end of the year approached, an exciting opportunity came up. A foreign brand manufacturer offered us a chance to expand our business by moving overseas. The idea thrilled me, as it could elevate my status as a top-tier designer. Jerry, always supportive, was eager to take the leap. "It's a chance we have to take," he said. However, the idea of moving abroad brought a new concern Megan. Given her past behavior, we worried she might want to come with us. While living internationally was appealing, the thought of dealing with Megan's demands in a new country was overwhelming. When we shared our plans to move overseas with Megan that weekend, she reacted exactly as we expected. "I want to come too," she said, thinking our move would be like a long vacation. Jerry tried to explain, "We're going there for work. It won't be as fun as you think." But Megan didn't believe him. "You're trying to trick me. You plan to live even more lavishly without me around," she accused. "We're not moving there permanently. We'll come back after our work is done," I tried to reassure her. But she shot back, "You say that, but you're planning to leave me behind, aren't you?" Jerry and I were tired of having the same argument over and over. To find a middle ground, Jerry suggested, "Okay, we can't take you with us, but how about we pay for a week-long trip for you instead?" Megan's mood brightened. "Really? Are you sure?" she asked. "We'll cover your flight and hotel, but you'll need to handle the rest," Jerry confirmed, and she seemed happy with that, at least for the moment. However, the peace didn't last long. A few days later, while Jerry was busy with the move preparations, Megan showed up unexpectedly. "Hey Lily," she said, "I want to shop over there too. Can you give me some money?" "What about the card Jerry gave you?" I asked, knowing she had a credit card for such expenses. Megan's face dropped. "That's the thing, Jerry took it away from me the other day," she admitted. It seemed she had been spending too much, and Jerry, anticipating the challenges of managing money with different currency rates overseas, had taken the card away. "I don't have that kind of money on hand either. I can't give you money without Jerry's approval. Can you ask him?" I suggested, knowing Jerry wouldn't agree. "It's no use asking him, that's why I'm asking you," she said, getting frustrated. Megan did go on a 18-day trip abroad, which I assumed Jerry managed to fund somehow. When she returned, she called me, excited. "I'm back, and it was so fun," she shared, telling me all about her sightseeing and dining adventures, even though I hadn't asked. "And I overbought souvenirs, couldn't fit them in my suitcase, so I had them shipped here. Can't wait for them to arrive," she added. "That's nice," I replied, trying to sound neutral even though I felt a bit overwhelmed. "Thanks to the money you saved up, I had a blast," she exclaimed. "Saved up money? What are you talking about?" I asked, confused and a little worried, as I had no memory of setting aside money for her spending. "I found it in your house's sideboard drawer," Megan said, claiming she took $120,000. I was shocked. Why would such a large amount of cash be kept at home, especially in a drawer where anyone could find it. Confused, I confronted her. I don't know what money you're talking about, but taking it from our house without permission is theft, even if you're family. Do you understand that? Megan's response was unsettlingly casual. That's why I'm telling you now. I used it. Consider it a post-factum report, she said, unapologetically. I have no idea about this money, but if you took it and used it without telling anyone, that's a crime. And if Jerry set it aside for something important, it's even more serious, I explained, trying to make sense of the situation. Despite this, there hadn't been any noticeable issues with our business finances during her trip. You two live so extravagantly, so why can't I have a little of that? Think of it as doing a favor for your parent. It's not a big deal, right? She rationalized, showing a sense of entitlement that was hard to understand. It's one thing to ask for help from your son and his wife, but this is not how you should behave after taking someone else's money, I replied, still in disbelief. I'm glad you enjoyed your trip, but I'll have to discuss this with Jerry when he returns. Jerry will understand. After all, I'm his only mother, and $120,000 isn't much to him, she assumed. All right, I'll pass the message along, I said, astonished by her lack of awareness. Later that evening, when Jerry came home, he looked troubled. Lily, do you know about the money I left in the drawer? He asked urgently. 20 days ago, I withdrew it from my bank account, and now it's gone. Keeping such a large sum in a drawer, didn't you think that was careless? He questioned. I needed cash immediately for an urgent payment. Do you know anything about it? Suddenly, it all made sense. Megan's earlier call thanking me for the $120,000 and mentioning how much fun she had made sense now it was Jerry's money meant for something important. Jerry, today Megan called thanking us for the $120,000 and saying she had a blast with it. I didn't understand what she meant until now, I explained, piecing everything together. So it was Jerry's money, but what was such a large amount meant for? I asked. If it wasn't for a business payment, we've been doing bank transfers for a long time, right? Why cash all of a sudden? I asked questions, trying to make sense of the situation and understand the consequences of Megan's actions. I knew it was Jerry's money that had gone missing, but I didn't have the full picture yet. Megan had taken the money without telling us, and I needed to know why. I turned to Jerry, puzzled by everything. Jerry began to explain the background. After he reduced the credit limit on Megan's card, she secretly started borrowing money from different sources, including consumer finance companies and credit cards she had opened without our knowledge. When Jerry found out about her growing debt, he took away all her cards and withdrew cash to pay off her debts directly, hoping to keep our business accounts clean and maintain trust with our partners. He also did this as a sort of farewell gesture since we were moving abroad and wouldn't be around to help her with these issues anymore. Jerry explained, I planned to handle her debts quietly to avoid complicating our financial records. A month had passed since then, and as I was busy packing for our move, Megan's constant calls became impossible to ignore. When I finally answered, her voice sounded desperate. Why haven't you been answering my calls? I've called so many times, she said, almost in tears. I'm sorry, Megan. I've been caught up with the move. What's going on? I asked, trying to stay calm and give her a chance to explain. It's not just one thing. It's everything. They're asking for payments almost every day. It's too much, Megan admitted, her voice breaking under the stress. Have you tried contacting Jerry about this? I asked, hoping she had sought his help first. He seems to be blocking my calls. I can't reach him at all. Lily, you're my only hope now. Please help me, she pleaded. At that moment, I realized how complicated things had become. Megan's reckless spending had led her into a deep financial mess, and now, with Jerry not responding, she was turning to me as her last option. As we were getting ready to start a new life in another country, The challenge of dealing with Megan's financial problems became an urgent issue that we had to address before we could move forward. I was surprised by how drastic Jerry's approach had been with his own mother. If he had used the money he withdrew to pay off Megan's debts directly, we might have avoided this stressful situation. Instead, Megan was now buried in collection letters and constant calls from finance companies and lenders. It felt like something out of a dramatic movie, something I never expected to deal with in real life. I'll talk to Jerry, but I can't promise what he'll do. A son should help his mother when she's in trouble, right? Please ask him for me, Megan pleaded at the end of our conversation. However, with our upcoming business expansion, our finances were already stretched thin, and we couldn't afford to help Megan further, especially since she had misused the money meant to settle her debts. When I told Jerry about the call after he got home, he responded with a mix of exhaustion and resignation. I had planned to sort things out before we left, but she wasted that chance herself, he said coldly. The money was originally set aside to clear Megan's debts, but she had spent it on a lavish trip instead, leaving no room for excuses. As Megan's calls continued, I followed Jerry's lead and blocked her number. Although part of me wanted to help after all, she was Jerry's mother. There was nothing I could do if Jerry had decided to distance himself from the situation. Meanwhile, the day of our move overseas was fast approaching, and I still had a lot to pack. Amid the chaos, I discovered more troubling news. Megan had resorted to selling her house to manage her debts. It turned out she had hidden even more debt than we knew about, and the total was so large that even selling her house couldn't cover it all. The thought of losing the family home where Jerry had grown up was deeply upsetting. Our family home is gone. Are you okay with that? I asked, sensing his sadness. How can I be okay? But there's nothing we can do, Jerry replied, his voice filled with sorrow. Losing the house where he grew up must have felt like a great loss, much like how I felt when I lost my parents' house early in life. In the midst of these complex emotions and the heavy task of packing, we had to accept that some things were beyond our control and focus on our future. As we prepared to start anew in a different country, the bittersweet reality of losing a family home hit me hard. I watched everything unfold with Jerry, and it was different from anything I'd experienced before. Jerry not only lost the physical place where his earliest memories were made, but also the emotional comfort that came with it all while his mother, Megan, is still alive. It's hard to describe the mix of loss and feeling out of place, especially in such painful circumstances. This loss is more than just losing a building. It's about losing a part of his history and the sense of having a place to return to, which no longer exists. Megan now lives in a small apartment and faces the daily struggle of managing her debts. She works part-time, which is tough for someone her age. Jobs for older people are not only limited but often physically hard and less rewarding. This new reality is a big change from her previous life, where she spent freely and seemed to have financial freedom. While it's natural to feel sympathy for her struggles, it's balanced by the understanding that her situation is the result of her own poor financial choices. Life teaches us that actions have consequences, and Megan's story is a reminder of how important it is to be financially responsible at any age. In our new environment, our business is thriving more than we ever expected. Moving overseas has put our brand in the international spotlight, bringing in a flood of inquiries and offers from all over the world. Every new email and call brings opportunities for expansion and collaboration, which is incredibly exciting but also very demanding. The success is thrilling, but it takes up almost all of our time, leaving little room for anything else. Days blur into nights as we juggle time zones and cultural differences, trying to make the most of this golden opportunity. Despite our professional achievements, our personal lives feel the strain of our non-stop schedules. The dream of expanding our family seems like a distant goal, something we hope to focus on once the immediate demands ease up. Jerry, who handles everything from logistics to client management, feels this pressure even more. As partners in both life and business, we often find ourselves wondering about the future and how we can balance our work with our personal goals. As I look out of our apartment window at the cityscape, The neon lights blend into the night, much like the blur of our daily lives. This view, full of promise and anonymity, is a stark contrast to the familiar streets we once knew. This vibrant, relentless city is now our home, but it's very different from the quiet, steady life we left behind. Our new life is both exciting and overwhelming, filled with endless tasks and decisions that challenge us at every step as we navigate this new chapter. I often think about Megan's situation and how our family and financial decisions affect our lives. It's a constant learning process, realizing how closely our